Hello, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our Good Practice Pod today on methodological tools. My name is James O'Brien. I'm the director of Forum, and I'm going to be moderating this session. We're going to hear over the next 40 minutes or so from 4 experts who have created innovative tools and solutions that promote more inclusive volunteering. In this session, if you have any questions for the presenters, you can type them into the chat box and they'll type their responses back to you. So our 4 speakers today, to begin with, we're going to hear from Darlene Grant, who's Senior Advisor to the Director of Peace Corps. Previously, Dr. Grant served as Peace Corps Director in both Kosovo and Mongolia, and before that, she worked for 18 years as Professor of Social Work at the University of Texas at Austin. Then we're going to hear from Andres Morales, who's the Volunteering and Youth Development Regional Coordinator for the Americas region at the International Federation of the Red Cross. He's also the Director of the Inter-American Center for Volunteering Development. After Andres, we're going to hear from Sádé Budhlall. Sádé is working in the humanitarian sector for the last 7 years. She's currently the Director of Volunteer Development at the Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society. And her main expertise is on youth and volunteering development, leadership development, and capacity building. And then finally in this session, we're going to hear from Katherine Tubb, a volunteering consultant. Katherine has mobilized in her career thousands of volunteers into hundreds of charities around the world. In 2003, she founded a social enterprise and an online volunteering platform, Two Way Development. She's special advisor to Lonely Planet, a contributor to The Guardian, and she's provided content for publications, documentaries, and events to raise awareness around volunteering. So to kick us off today, first of all, we're going to hear from Dr. Darlene Grant, special advisor to the Director of Peace Corps.
Hello, my name is Darlene Grant. I currently work as a senior advisor to the acting director of the Peace Corps. I was a Peace Corps country director in Kosovo, 2015 to 2019, and in Mongolia, 2012 to 2015. I served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Cambodia, 2009 to 2011. Prior to my service, I was a university professor of social work for 18 years. And a dean in charge of graduate recruitment to the university. And for 10 years prior to that, a direct service social worker. It is an honor to share with you about the Peace Corps, which was established by executive order in March 1961, approved by Congress, and signed into legislation on September 22nd, 1961, 60 years ago. And in 1981, the Peace Corps was made an independent agency. Peace Corps programs serve in countries by request of their government and are most successful when operating at the intersection of 3 elements: the country's national priorities, a local community's needs and resources, and the Peace Corps volunteer skill set. This work is easier said than done. Peace Corps volunteers carry out people-to-people public service and citizen diplomacy at the grassroots level. Drawn from all corners of the United States, volunteers collaborate, living and working in communities alongside counterparts to address challenges in agriculture, community economic development, education, environment, health, and youth development across the globe. Not paid a salary, but a small monthly allowance. They live and work in the community, in part to reduce the distance that comes with social privilege and income gaps. In this session, we will be engaging in exploring the power of preposition, how words and concepts like for versus alongside play a critical role in framing development programming that centers communities and partners rather than the volunteer. I'll use a volunteer story for example. A Peace Corps volunteer assigned to work with 6 English teacher trainers on a teaching training center campus was seated at her desk in the school administrator's office when the head of the office was approached by a group of female students requesting a conversation. The volunteer noticed that a number of the young women were students in the class that she co-taught with her primary counterpart. Knowing that she had a good grasp of local language, the volunteer was invited to join the conversation. The young women were petitioning for help following the death of one of their peers from waterborne bacterial meningitis. They wanted to move out of the dorm as their first solution. The discussion evolved to exploring the core of their concerns, getting sick as well, and various possible solutions. The volunteer asked if a tour of the women's dorm and facilities could be a part of her learning as much as possible. Upon observing the conditions of the facilities, the volunteer inquired how the young women accessed water for cooking, cleaning, and bathing. The conversation went on for a number of days and ended with the collaborative team growing and evolving to a decision to address waterborne illnesses using education from doctors and nurses at a local clinic and a clean water source and facilities repair. The young women did not move out of the dorm. Members of the team accessed their relations, their connections in the community to the doctors in these different facilities that were willing and able to assist in educating the women, and also to plumbers and others who were familiar with navigating the challenges of installing plumbing systems. The project ended up helping residents of this particular women's dorms, but in another women's dorm and in the teacher's dorm, situated only feet away from that dorm. Words and concepts can be and are used to create context, ambiance, feeling, and focal points. A focal point of the training of Peace Corps volunteers and of the volunteer experience has always been commitment to partnering with local counterparts and communities. Another focal point is understanding and appreciation for counterpart and community assets, needs, and development priorities, rather than dictating an agenda from outside. Participatory analysis for community action, or PACA, as it is known in Peace Corps, is central to the Peace Corps approach to development. And the Peace Corps is always adapting to the times and to an ever-changing world, but has never wavered from these focal points. Words and concepts used ground us within the value system of a volunteer organization. Having spent 10 to 11 weeks immersed in in-country language and cross-cultural training, among the first steps in counterpart and community partnering after a Peace Corps volunteer arrives in their community is listening and learning. Engaging through dialogue, not monologue, that allows for meaningful information from various community members to lay the groundwork for understanding the assets, the strengths, resources embedded in a community that will make community-led development efforts more sustainable, as was illustrated in the earlier volunteer story. Recognizing that the most precious resource within a community is the people and their time. Using the PACA approach, counterparts and community members collaborate with volunteers to share information, analyze implications for the community. What if we did X? What would that do in our community? How about Y? Plan for action together and collectively implement projects. PACA seeks inclusion of women as an integral part of development processes, as well as different age groups, youth and the elderly, ethnic minorities, and other commonly marginalized groups, all critical to a successful PACA approach. Collaboration for capacity building from a place of assets is very different than that of building problem solving from a place of deficits. This and all of the above considerations places the value emphasis on mitigating for colonialism power dynamics and solidly focuses on our relationship with people in their community. Words give direction and guide actions. Peace Corps works to equip volunteers to be technically and culturally competent professionals who collaborate with partners to support community-driven solutions by establishing an environment conducive to achieving the community's goals. More specific to international volunteer work, the words we use in recruiting, training, and coaching, mentoring in our policies and our procedures matter. Prepositions, more specifically, a part of speech that shows relationship between two things, the volunteer and their community, the community and their Peace Corps volunteer. What is that direction, the time, the place, the degree of connection? With prepositions and concepts are used in relationships between our organization's volunteers and their counterparts and communities. Let me rephrase that. Which prepositions and concepts are used in relationships to your organization's volunteers and their counterparts and communities? And are those policies and procedures designed to support that which centers the community in its own development priorities, or focused on the volunteer? These are important questions to consider. Are we working among? Are we working alongside? Are we working from beside? Or are we working top down? Or are we working from in front of? This all matters. In sum, our work across the ensuing years is to balance the challenges and opportunities and successes involved in centering the community voices while supporting volunteer development and success. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Grant. It's great to hear about the work that's happening in the Peace Corps. And next, we're going to turn to Andres Morales of the International Federation of Red Cross. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Andres Morales. I'm working for the International Federation of the Red Cross, based in Costa Rica and supporting the Americas region. We support 35 national societies. That means 35 Red Crosses all over the Americas, supporting our humanitarian mission. Today, I would like to present to you the Volunteering Development Platform. This is a project that we have been working during the last years, and is specifically created for national societies or Red Crosses all over the region, and it is also used by other regions in the world. As mentioned in the International Federation New Strategy 2030, we know that volunteering and civil mobilization are key to ensuring more inclusive societies, where all can enjoy the benefits and opportunities available. We also know that volunteers ensure that we are deeply rooted in the communities we support, understand the persistent and emerging challenges in their communities, and have ideas and passion for how to drive change. We know that very nature of community and volunteering is changing, powered in part by greater connectedness and capacity to self-mobilize through digital technologies. We know that while we currently have the largest formal network of volunteers globally that works in humanitarian actions, there is a massive movement of people around the world trying to mobilize for a better world, and we want to support and enhance these efforts. That is why we created the Volunteering Development Platform that you can go and visit in volunteeringredcross.org. This has been created with support from national societies, and it has taken an effort with also from volunteers in the field, taking in consideration their feedback, what has been work and whatnot. So to start, I would like to share right now my screen that all of you will be able to see right now at this moment, where we can be talking about it. So as I mentioned before, this work has meant a great effort from different people in the region, including the participation of different national societies of Red Crosses from the beginning. This platform will be, and it is, a relevant element in the development and strengthening of volunteering in the Americas region of the International Federation of the Red Cross. And this is taking into consideration different global commitments that we made also at regional level. This platform is a direct response to the requests and requirements and needs of the national societies in the region. And this has been achieved thanks to the support of everybody involved during now 3 years. So I would like now to present the different areas of the platform that help us as a key tool for digital transformation. First of all, we have developed one area specifically for knowledge management. This area of knowledge management has the capacity to help decision makers and those responsible for volunteering development with tailored support, such as guidelines, learning opportunities, and also different manuals and documents that has been created for different parts in the Red Cross. The aim of this platform is a tool to enhance collaboration between national societies to increase their development skills, build their own capacity, and create their own tools. So now we have here in this section of knowledge management, first the resources, that is about volunteering, development, and management. I just mentioned it to you. Also, a very key issue for us is the area of the volunteering development framework. This framework that we use is also organized in a logical way how we do organize volunteering in the Red Cross. And here in the different elements, I also invite you to visit and to see, you can see how we divide this. We divide it in the why, the how, the what, and development environment. And you can find here different tools, manuals, I just mentioned it. For example, something to highlight is the volunteering management cycle adapted to the needs of a humanitarian organization as the Red Cross. And here you can download the document and to take more information. So this area was created specifically for people that work in volunteering development, either at national level or regional or local level. What we call local level is our communities, where the branches of the Red Cross are. So the next point is about analysis and reports. This has helped us to create different reports that allow us to see how is the volunteering in the Americas region. This gives us some different data that help us to see and to measure how we are doing, how we are going about, to have final recommendation, etc. So that shows, for example, how we're doing in different structures, how we're doing about databases, how we're doing about insurance, and you can understand that the insurance protection is key for us when we are working with the communities. So this is very, very, very important. Another element that we have developed in this platform is what we call the Volunteering Inactions Map. This is an interactive map of volunteers' activities and projects showing humanitarian initiatives, activities and projects carried out by volunteers themselves in the region. This helps demonstrate volunteer work in accordance with current areas of work, and this helps also to demonstrate the volunteering work that is being carried out everywhere in the region. They also helps to demonstrate the work accordingly and also show us different activities, humanitarians that are happening at global, regional level and local level. For example, here we have a cleanup campaign. Here now we are in Mexico. This is about flooding. If we go somewhere in the Caribbean, you can see, for example, in Barbados, there are activities about go bags, and this is humanitarian response that volunteers are doing. So, and that will also show us at the end of the map, like for example, right now we have more than 1,000 humanitarian initiatives collected, and this is for 45,000 participants with more than 240,000 volunteer service hours and more than 700,000 beneficiaries of people that we have reached in the communities. So this is showing the power of volunteers all over the region. And that also was created because we know some volunteers, they like to publish things on Facebook, on other social media, but we didn't have any way, any space where to put that. So we create this platform and also this map where people can show what they are doing. And then you can go here and you can click more and you will see photos, videos, and the different information that everybody is collecting from everywhere in the region, which actually is very exciting because we can see the impact of volunteers all over the region. Also here, of course, we have actions about COVID, etc. And as I was mentioning at the beginning, we have divided this in different categories, and you can come here and you can see the categories about education, migration, non-violence and peace, etc. So it's actually very relevant for us. That was what I mentioned to you about the knowledge management. Now, I would like to mention it to you about the volunteering and projects that we have here. We created also another section which is called about volunteering emergencies. So people that would like to volunteer during an emergency, they can come here and they can register and they can help a national society at local level, which is actually very relevant for us. Another option that we have volunteering opportunities. People can come here and to find different opportunities from the region and they can apply directly. Another tool is about the finance a project with national societies can post the projects and a donor can come here and actually, sponsor the project, which is actually very relevant for our activities in the Red Cross. And of course, we will have here another areas like contact us and what is about this tool, and that can help us actually to share with not only a community of people in the Red Cross, but also with people externally. And that is very important because we are part of the communities. We want to reach those vulnerable people, and by showing, sharing, and collectively working together for the objective is actually one of our key missions, to supporting those in need. And with that, I would like to say thank you to all of you. And I hope that showing this digital tool is something useful for other people. And also you can contact us and you can reach to us in the IFRC regional office. It would be great to share more information about it and to show to you which national societies are participating. So thank you to everybody who had made possible this platform, and thanks to all of you for listening during these 10 minutes. Over to you, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andre, for taking us on a tour of the volunteering development platform, and congratulations. It's a really fantastic tool that's brought a lot of volunteering activity under one roof and provided it to an audience online. So our next speaker is Sádé Budhlall, who is the Director of Volunteering Development with the Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society. Over to you, Sádé.
Thank you, James, and hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. It is my absolute pleasure to share with you today a few insights about measuring diversity and inclusion based on an assessment tool that I created for the Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross. So I will go ahead and share my presentation with you now. So many organizations have incorporated diversity and inclusion into their best practices for an inclusive environment. And one approach to realizing a truly inclusive society is through volunteering, as the act of volunteering can be found in all cultures, languages, traditions, even religions. Like the Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross, many nonprofit organizations and even government entities struggle with capturing diversification data and to engage volunteers who reflect the diversity of the communities that they serve. In response to this issue, my proposed Protection, Gender, and Inclusion survey seeks to provide an understanding of key diversity trends and protection challenges for the Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross, reach potential volunteers and new audiences, and assist us in developing appropriate psychosocial support programs for volunteers. So just to give some context to the name of this survey, in the Red Cross, Red Crescent movement, Protection, Gender, and Inclusion is a humanitarian approach that is based on diversity and inclusion factors. Therefore, the aim of this PGI survey is to ensure that these factors are being measured within our volunteer database with the understanding that measuring and evaluating the diversity of our volunteers will provide us with an evidence-based approach and knowledge to develop culturally relevant psychosocial support mechanisms for our volunteers. It will also ensure that our volunteers better represent the communities and the beneficiaries they serve through targeted recruitment strategies. And also investing in diversity and inclusion data also ensures that our equity policy is maintained and ultimately inspires further dialogue, research, policy, and practice. So this survey was made culturally relevant based on a number of data collection approaches that are already used by some nonprofits and data analysts. For example, some questions were developed from the I Motivate survey, which was created by the Swiss Red Cross and IFRC. And it is also based on the self-determination theory, which is a psychological theory. And these questions were further developed and reframed for our local context. Now, data collection approaches outlined by a UK nonprofit organization by the name of Stonewall was very helpful in designing questions related to gender and sexual orientation. So this PGI survey has been developed in the form of a cross-sectional questionnaire, which will be disseminated to our entire volunteer base of approximately 282 volunteers. This questionnaire has been designed and will be evaluated on the principle of intersectionality, considering there are complex groups and layers within larger population groups. For example, cis women and Black LGBTQ women who have varying experiences and sociocultural realities. Now, just in terms of an overview of survey characteristics, all questions are anonymous, and this will be communicated clearly when the survey is sent out, as well as how the data will be stored and protected. So if volunteers aren't comfortable with associating themselves with a certain identity, knowing that they can keep their privacy may very well set their minds at ease. All questions are also optional, so respondents can skip to any question they're uncomfortable with, but still be able to participate in the survey. Most importantly, a communications plan will be designed and executed before the dissemination of the survey so that the Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross remains transparent about the reason that we are engaging volunteers in this survey. Respondents might feel more likely to share information about themselves if they know that their responses will help support diversity and inclusion. Lastly, the language of the survey will be inclusive and culturally relevant, keeping mindful of triggers and microaggressions. So these are the diversity and inclusion dimensions of the survey, bearing in mind that, well, diversity is a fact. So when we talk about diversity, it is the full range of differences and similarities, visible and non-visible, that make each individual unique. And when we talk about inclusion, inclusion is a behavior, right? It is recognizing, valuing, and fully leveraging different perspectives and backgrounds to drive results. So responses will be filtered to compare and contrast answers from different various groups of people, after which results will be mapped to specific areas of focus and interventions. And in terms of analyzing group differences, it's very important for us to compare results between groups of people rather than treating them as one entire homogeneous group. So where data sets are large enough, differences between certain groups of people who share other characteristics will also be assessed. These can include, but are not limited to, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and disability. And reports will also be created at regular intervals to track progress. So in conclusion, there is a clear advantage of using diversity and inclusion surveys in the organization context, whether it's developing an inclusion strategy to reshape organizational culture, collecting data on vulnerable groups to better address their needs, or boosting beneficiary engagement. Notably, the lack of data security mechanisms and capacity can have significant limitations to collecting sensitive information on volunteers. So you should keep that in mind. And in addition, there is a clear need for, I guess, awareness and communication strategies to sensitize persons about the purpose and importance of initiatives like this. Overall, current research widely supports the investment of diversity and inclusion surveys. However, a continuation of research with consistent and strengthened methodologies will help justify its use and application in organizational settings. So this is the end of my presentation. I hope this was fruitful for you, and I look forward to hearing your feedback and your comments, and I look forward to answering any questions that you may have. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Sádé. It's great to hear about how you and your colleagues are measuring the diversity and inclusion of volunteers within your programs in Trinidad and Tobago. Thanks so much for a wonderful presentation. Next up, we're going to hear from Katherine Tubb, and she's going to talk to us about digitalization as a methodological tool for volunteering organizations. Over to you, Katherine.
Thank you, James. It's great to be here. I will talk you through digitalization through using key studies of consultancy assignments I've had over the last 7 years and setting up my own volunteering organization. So digitalization is very much a tool that can achieve a range of different goals, but what I'm going to focus on today is inclusivity. And focusing on digitalization of volunteering operations and the importance of that, but also the power of digital engagement more generally. As I say, I'm going to use very specific case studies to demonstrate those two points of view. As James says, my name's Katherine Tubb. You can find out more about me from my website. I founded Two-Way Development in 2003, placed thousands of volunteers in 10 years, and have worked as a consultant for 7 years, helping voluntary organisations with new models of volunteering. So just to give a little bit of context around digitalisation, post-COVID in the UK, our National Health Service put a call out for volunteers, and in 48 hours they had 750,000 online applications. It was the biggest volunteer uptake in this country since World War II. And the need for apps and technology digitally is absolutely crucial in these environments. When I set up Two-Way Development, the need for digitalisation was very much about speed. I set up Two-Way Development as an alternative to national volunteering agencies that were funded by governmental organisations, and I charged a fee to support volunteers. And in doing so, I had to be really, really mindful of the effectiveness of operations and keeping that fee as low as possible. So we used a web-based operating platform to automate the volunteer journey and really grow a self-driven community of volunteers and partners, able to mobilize themselves, able to go through vetting applications and so on. On the back of that, I was invited to spend 6 months with Australian Volunteers International in 2016 to look at how digitalisation could achieve income and operational goals. The organisation had lost substantial government funding at that time and really needed to enter new corporate markets. And focus groups and market research with key corporates in Australia at that time showed us that lead times or volunteer mobilisation times and costs needed to be reduced. So doing an overhaul of service design and turning manual tasks into automated tasks through using digital tools and technology, we were able to reduce volunteer mobilisation times by 50% and reduce costs dramatically more than that. That created a platform for AVI to generate an additional amount of money through corporate volunteering to complement the work that they were doing. Similarly, for Red Cross Australia back in 2016, I was employed to look at how to respond to key national society development needs through volunteering. And at the time, the trends were very obvious. Short-term remote volunteering was becoming the norm, especially in corporate volunteering. And so I designed a model around micro inputs of volunteer time on an e-volunteering platform to respond to a central organisational capacity assessment used at the Red Cross called OCAC. In using digitalisation in this way, we were not only able to mobilise diverse sectors of society into the Red Cross, but we were able to respond to the needs of 192 different offices around the world very effectively. For WWF, the process of using digital technology was all about sharing and generating data and connecting different teams around the world, embarking on a very new model of conservation. I helped set up an online community of expert volunteers through external partnerships, where expert volunteers were able to comment on landscape conservation design in real time. My most recent assignment was with the National Network of Healthcare Volunteers in the UK called Street Doctors. It wasn't about creating a new model of digital volunteering. It was about using digitalisation to eliminate operational risks such as delays, safeguarding, quality control of manual processing. And we looked at how to digitise volunteer recruitment and safeguarding in such a way that those risks were eliminated. And it also doubled the capacity. By using digital technology, we were not only sort of eliminating operational risks, but we doubled the capacity of each volunteer to deliver information to at-risk communities, and therefore really widen the scope that the organisation was able to achieve. So what approach should you take in your organisation? At the start of all of my consultancy assignments, I look at creating a digital transformation strategy. Sometimes this can last up to 2 years if you're going from a very manual way of working, but it really gives you an opportunity to think about your needs, consider a new approach, and the benefits that you need digitalisation to bring. This could apply to digitalisation of existing operations or bringing in a new opportunity through e-volunteering. And it's really important in that process that you look at how automating the volunteer life cycle can open up your programme to as many people as possible. You don't have to use bespoke technology like I did for two-way development. There are several off-the-shelf apps such as Yammer, Crowdicity that I used at Red Cross and WWF. And things like Xero, which is a finance management tool traditionally, can really help to sort of streamline tracking volunteering sessions and so on. In the environmental sector, it's becoming very commonplace with the rise of citizen science and embracing volunteers into the collection and sharing of data to use apps and technology. Zooniverse is a widely used application for citizen science. eBird, iNaturalist, more widely used in the UK. We're seeing millions of volunteers using these apps, and they carry huge potential to increase inclusivity. So who's next? I'd love to hear from people attending the conference about your plans, but just to sort of end my presentation today, I'll give you an example of a corporate in China, Alipay, who launched a citizen app called Ant Forest in 2016. It now mobilizes voluntary support for reforestation from 7% of the world's population. So it just goes to show the potential of digital technology in all of the work that you do. So thank you very much for your time, but please feel free to contact me should you need to.
I want to thank all of our four speakers from today. That's Darlene, Andre, Sádé, and Katherine. The next sessions in the Good Practice pods are on Indigenous people and gender. We're going to take a quick break, and then those sessions will be beginning in about 5 minutes. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.